Hey guys, my name is Pedro and today I'm going to talk about Captain Tsubasa, more specifically Captain Tsubasa J. I have two enormous passions in my life. One when I was growing up was Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball, I love watching it. I own every VHS copy that was sold here in Portugal, whether it being Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball GT. I own all of them, and suffice to say it is an anime that I absolutely adore and love, and the first anime to make me really enjoy anime, like One Piece, Naruto, all that sort of thing. I also have an enormous passion for football, or for you Americans, soccer. This is a sport that I grew up in. I love it. I love watching it. The uncertainty that you have each time a play plays out, you don't know if it's going to be a goal or not. You really want to see if your team wins, and you're just waiting for that goal, for that moment to decide the game for you, and so you can just stand up and cheer for that goal. That might be the only goal you watch, but it's sufficient to make you happy because you watch the goal and you watch your team scoring that goal. So that is hugely important. I love this sport. And what happens when you combine Dragon Ball with football? Well, we get the unforgettable manga slash anime made by Yoichi Takahashi, Captain Tsubasa. The story of how a young boy named Tsubasa Ozura only wants to play football and pursue it as much as he can, kind of like Goku does with fighting in Dragon Ball. It started as a manga in 1981 and further developed into an anime in 1983, thus influencing greatly Japan's love for football. Before that, you didn't really have much of a passion of a sport in Japan until Captain Tsubasa came. And when that happened, Japan was like rooting for Tsubasa, wanting to know each chapter, wanting to know his outcome. It was a big deal for Japan. And then later, the manga and anime arrived in the rest of the world: France, Netherlands, Brazil, and also in Portugal. It had such an impact around the world that people just wanted to watch the show because people could really connect with the sport, with football, and wanting to be that guy, wanting to be like Tsubasa and just play football just for the fun of it, but also achieving something great in life, which is the World Cup. That's Tsubasa's biggest dream, and you really get that in the show. Yoichi Takahashi, with the success of Captain Tsubasa, further developed the characters into sequel mangas, the most well-known being Captain Tsubasa Road 2002. But I didn't grow up with Captain Tsubasa or Captain Tsubasa Road 2002. I grew up with one in the middle, and that one is called Captain Tsubasa J. For me, it had such an impact in my life because I was just 13 when I watched it for the first time. It was just amazing to watch. Basically, Yoichi Takahashi did a sequel manga called Captain Tsubasa World Youth, where it pursued the main characters of Captain Tsubasa and newer characters, and basically wanted to show Japan under 21 play in the World Cup under 21 and see how those characters, Tsubasa and other people that we already knew, and new characters like Shingo Aoi, would come into the team and would influence Japan in possibly winning the World Cup. And of course, an anime came about, Captain Tsubasa J, and the reason for that is because they wanted to do the original episodes again, but in fewer episodes, so a new generation of fans could grow up watching it and come to know all of these original characters and then the newer characters like Shingo Aoi. Captain Tsubasa J really had that impact in my life. No show did this better than Captain Tsubasa J. So in a nutshell, the story starts with a young boy called Tsubasa Ozura who arrives at a town called Nankatsu at the age of 11. He has a huge passion for football, huge passion, and he wants to pursue it. There he meets friends and rivals and creates this awesome group of people to really play the best football that you can see in the show. He meets his first rival, Genzo Wakabayashi, who is a goalkeeper, who then becomes his close friend. He also meets Taro Mizaki, who is a really good footballer too, and Tsubasa and Mizaki playing together is the pairing of the show. Nobody plays better together than them two. Kojiro Hyuga, who is Tsubasa's main rival, and there's so many characters that you get to meet. You get to meet Jun Misugi, who has a heart disease and can't play his best football. You also meet Hikaru Matsuyama, who is this really good footballer and plays for a team that wasn't that good but became good because of the coach, and a very close friend to Mizaki in another town. So there's so many characters here that you get to know and you get to root for in this show. And the main point of this show is the willpower that each character have, especially Tsubasa. That is amazing. And when you get to the national tournament with Tsubasa, Genzo Wakabayashi, Taro Mizaki, Ishizaki, all of these players playing together and forming this awesome team, playing against the main rival team, Meiva, with Kojiro Hyuga at the helm of the team. Also, you have many other teams like Musashi, where Jun Misugi plays at, Furano's, where Hikaru Matsuyama plays at. You also got the twin brothers, who are also play amazing football. You got all of these teams in the national tournament, and you just basically want to root for Nankatsu, the main team where Tsubasa plays. But there are so many teams and they have so many awesome stories that you also want to root for them. So you don't really know who to root for, and that is amazing. I love that in the show. Is when you get to the semi-finals between Nankatsu and Musashi, basically Tsubasa facing off Jun Misugi, that is one of the best moments of the show, because Jun Misugi has a heart disease. He has a heart disease and you cannot play the total 40 minutes of the game. Why 40 minutes? Because they're just 11 years old, and of course they can't play more than 40 minutes per game. Basically, this guy, Jun Misugi, who used to be the most promising Japanese player until he got the heart disease, he can only play 15 minutes, but he decides to play 40 minutes because it's against Tsubasa, possibly the best footballer in Japan in the future. And it's so tense because the guy might die. He can actually die in that field, and you're thinking, what the hell am I watching? Why is this so stressful? Why is this so tense? Why is he making this stupid decision? And because it's Japanese, you have something called honor, and I love that about the show. For him, it's so honorable to play against Tsubasa that he doesn't care that if he dies, he just wants to play his best football. Of course, it's an anime, it exaggerates. This wouldn't happen in real life, but you can sense a bit of the Japanese culture here, and also the willpower that these characters have. And Tsubasa starts playing bad football because he doesn't want Jun Misugi to die. He's the only person who knows about his disease. Nobody else does, and everybody's questioning why isn't Tsubasa playing his best football. And that's such an awesome game. It's one of my favorites. It's immensely tense, really tense, and the outcome it has is absolutely amazing. I love that. You also get another semi-final between Furanos and Meiva. Basically, the coach in Furanos is ill and he might die at any moment, and the team Furanos with Hikaru Matsuyama, they just want to win the game against Meiva and honor their coach in the best way possible, and that is also really a tense game. Because they're not the main characters, Yoshi Takahashi, the creator of the show, is able to do things with them a bit more dark that he's not able to do with Tsubasa, and I like that. I like that he explores that. It kind of reminds me in a way Battle Royale, because the main characters in Battle Royale, you know what's going to happen to the main characters, but everybody else is so interesting, and that's what makes Battle Royale really an interesting film and story. And Captain Tsubasa is kind of like that too. You know the outcome that Tsubasa is going to have, but everybody else is such a big deal, and everybody has such huge character development, and that is such a huge feat for the show. That's why I love Captain Tsubasa J.
You want to see how much Pedro loves Captain Tsubasa? Here is Pedro's mind, pretending he's playing for Japan. Look at his serious face. Ooh, Tsubasa's calling him. Pedro looks to him. Tsubasa makes the pass. The ball is flying like a Kamehameha right to Heredit Pedro. He receives the ball. Everybody's in shock. And so is Pedro. Ooh, he square goal. He shoots. And it's a goal. Yes. And everybody is completely in shock because, let's face it, the show shows more reactions than actual football. Yes. And here it is. The final whistle, and Pedro is completely in awe. The stadium cheers for him. Tsubasa cheers for him. And
Yes, this is basically just my mind, and it sucks. My 13-year-old mind. Well, back to the review. And then you have the second part of Captain Tsubasa J, where we skip ahead a few years and we meet this guy called Shingo Aoi, who goes to Italy in hopes to becoming a professional footballer. He goes to Inter Milan, he has a chance of being in the team, he plays well, and he starts training with Inter Milan. But the teammates don't really like him. They think that because he's Japanese, he shouldn't be there, he shouldn't be given that opportunity, so instead of helping him out, they give him bad passes, they don't make him feel at home, which Shingo Aoi really goes down in the dumps, and he thinks of quitting, which is awful. And it's cool because it's a kind of a more realistic side to the story. Instead, he starts training twice as hard. This is where the players really have to show their abilities. If they can overcome the most dire situations, then they will become one of the best players in the world. And Shingo Aoi really trains twice as hard, 3 times as hard, 4 times as hard, using weights, having his own training routines. So when the teammate gives him a bad pass, he's able to be fast enough to get it. Or when somebody gives him a pass that can't really reach him, he can jump high enough to get it. All of these things are really important for his growth as a player, and he is able to become the player that he always wanted to be. This awesome player that trains hard, day in and day out, always, all the time, to become the player that one day can play alongside Tsubasa. Why? Because he played against Tsubasa when he was 15 and he lost, and Tsubasa said something that really meant to him, and he kept that in his mind, he kept that in his memory, and he has the dream of playing with Tsubasa in the World Cup so that Tsubasa can achieve his dream of winning the World Cup for Japan. This is amazing. I love this part of the show. This new character who's kind of clumsy but also really talented and one of the fastest players in Japan Japan, you really get to see that. And when you have the Japan versus Thailand game where only Tsubasa of the really good Japanese players is playing, all of the others were kind of pushed to the side so they can learn new stuff. It's a really difficult game. Japan might not win against Thailand, and so the coach brings Shingo Aoi into the team. He arrives at the last minutes of the first half, and he gets in and he starts playing with Tsubasa, and it's a huge deal. I love this part of the story. Such an amazing game. My biggest disappointment with the show is that it doesn't follow World Youth till the end. It does not. It just sets it up. I think it's basically so that people can read the manga, basically. But I was a kid. I had no idea if the manga existed. I had no idea that it was just a sequel. I had no idea of what Captain Tsubasa was. I just knew it as Captain Tsubasa J. I saw the story of Tsubasa, 11 years old, playing for the national tournament, the first one in the manga, meeting all these guys, these friends and these rivals, and such an amazing part of the show. And then just skips way ahead into the future, 19 years old, so they can play for Japan under 21. And then you don't see the rest of the story. Only years later, when I was like 18, did I actually read the manga and saw how it ended, and I loved it. And it's such a shame that Captain Tsubasa J didn't do this, because in my opinion, Captain Tsubasa J has the best animation. Yes, it beats Road to 2002 because of the detail it has. It just, the amount of detail, the fluidity the characters have, it's just so awesome. It really is like you're watching manga on screen, and I love that. I really do. It really makes you feel for the characters. You want them to win, whether it's the main character or the rival, even when the rival might be able to win the game against the main character, because he had so much character development, and the animation is done so well that really portrays that in the best way possible. You really get the feeling that you want him to score a goal so you can see more of it, and it's really rare to see that, because in Dragon Ball you don't really have that side of the story. You could say that Tsubasa and Kojiro Hyuga are kind of like Goku and Vegeta, but that is such a big part of the story that you really want Kojiro Hyuga to also win and to also be the guy that he wants to be the player that he wants to be. Whereas when Goku fights against Vegeta, you don't really want Vegeta to win. You really like the character, but you don't want him to win. There's no reason for him to win. You want Goku to win always. You also have an amazing soundtrack. This soundtrack really carries the show because it always emphasizes the amount of willpower that these characters have, the amount of strength that they have inside them. The moment where they decide, this is it, the song just comes in, it bursts in, and they have so many different songs that do this and really emphasize each moment and the battles between the characters and the teams and everything that's going on. When it's sad, it really showcases. When it's happy, it really showcases. When it's trying to demonstrate the enormous strength that each player and the team have, it emphasizes it so much, and it has such a huge impact on the show. That is why I think Captain Tsubasa, in my opinion, is the show that had the most impact in my life, because it's able to show so many characters, so many sides of the story, build up characters so well, and give something that is so important, which is willpower. You do what you want and you work hard for it every single day. I love that. The willpower that Tsubasa has is amazing. You have this part in part 2, basically when Japan under 21, the team is training without the best players, and Tsubasa arrives and sees them all laying down on the ground as if there was a huge war. It's hilarious, but it's amazing at the same time. And then just because Tsubasa starts talking, get up, a person who gives up on their dreams is a coward. You have to fight, you have to keep going, and they are completely tired, they're completely shattered, they're completely down in the dumps, and they get up through his words, and it's amazing. And the soundtrack that you have in that scene emphasizes that moment. It is such a beautiful moment. I love that. I never forgot that. And there were many times in my life that, you know, sometimes I was a bit down in the dumps, sometimes I didn't know what to do, and remembering that always helped me get back up and do what I always wanted to do. It had such a huge impact in my life. And to the people who haven't seen this show, you must watch it. It is pivotal to watch this show. It is some of the best animation I have ever seen. You will never forget a show like this. And many people who watched it at the age that I watched it, and they were 13, today we still talk about it. We're 25, it's 12 years later, and we still talk about it. Americans had Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We also had those shows here, don't get me wrong, but Americans had all of these shows that had a huge impact in their lives, and the Disney films in the 90s that we also had. But we also had this show, Captain Tsubasa J, that started airing in Portugal when we were 13, and it was absolutely amazing, and you have to watch it. It is a must see. So I hope you enjoyed my review. Do not forget to subscribe. I have 2 reviews and 1 anime music video. Yes, I am showing an anime music video that I did of the show way back in 2006, something that I loved doing at the time, and it's a recap of the final with one of the music of the soundtrack. If you haven't seen the show, I advise you not to watch it because it's a huge spoiler, but if you really want to see how the show is and all of the impact and the willpower the show has, then watch it because I think it demonstrates it quite well. Also, don't forget to check my Facebook page, my Twitter, and my blog. I love doing this review for you guys. I've been wanting to do this for a while now, and I really hope you enjoyed it. And remember, these are my personal opinions.